Stephanie, we don't hear you if you're speaking.
Mute. Sorry. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. We'd like to welcome you to our second workshop of the year under the HP Professional Mentorship Program. We hosted one last week. We will be hosting a series of workshops for aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners. This is part of AHP's commitment to provide quality programs to its members and the Haitian community at large. In addition to this series of workshops, we will soon launch a professional mentorship program for people at all levels of their career. We are pleased to present the second workshop in this series, Succeeding in Your Side Gig edition, with Danette Roy-Hyacinthe, Fabiola Dumas, and Franz de Renaucourt Jr. We will be providing 5 minutes to each presenters to present themselves. And Danette, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll give one important disclosure. For disclosures, the material presented here is just for general educational purposes only. The information presented here is not specific to any individual personal circumstances. We advise you to seek independent advice from a tax, financial, and/or legal professional based on your individual circumstances. Tonight we'll be having Danette Roy-Hyacinthe. She's a first-generation Haitian American and multi-award winning journalist. Born in Massachusetts, I used to live there. She obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in broadcast journalism from Emerson College in Boston and a Juris Doctorate degree from the University of District of Columbia, David A. Clark School of Law. She has worked as a producer for various media outlets such as Discovery Communications, CBS affiliate, and CTV News, where she garnered their 3 awards for documentary Spotlight. Domestic violence. The Net also served as the legislative advisor for DC's Emmy Award-winning Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment. Presently, she leads the Ethical Standards and Practices Division at Black News Channel. We are pleased to have Danette tonight, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Stephanie, and good evening to you all. I'd like to first thank you, AHP, for creating this virtual space for us all this evening. I did attend last week's masterclass with Dr. Solange Vivens, and it was awesome. I took a lot of her advice in for this evening. I look forward to listening to my fellow panelists tonight, as well as attending your future workshops. The short and skinny of it, you said it all within my bio that you just read. But in addition to that, I am a wife and mother of 3 children, and as well, I have a I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. I also have a real estate investment company as well. So I look forward to sharing my story with you all. Thank you.
So we begin with you first. You can go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and present my screen.
You have control.
Okay, does everyone see my screen?
Not yet.
How about now?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So tonight, my task is to discuss when your side gig needs to become your full-time gig. There we go. And so Stephanie did a great job reading my bio. And for those of you who got a chance to read it beforehand, it was a great bio, correct? The career and professional development accomplishments seemed to ebb and flow. Everything was fluid. There was nothing disjointed whatsoever. There were no issues or struggles along the way. But here is the real story. Number one, I am human. Number two, I am a product of my environment and exposure. And I've had many struggles and challenges along the way. So with that being said, I need permission from you as my audience for the next 10 or 15 minutes. The first permission is this. I'm going to ask you the permission for me to be honest with you without any judgment whatsoever. The second permission I'm going to ask is that you give me the permission to be my authentic self. And within that, then I need your permission for me to speak Creolish. And for those of you who may not know what Creolish is, that's the ability as a first-generation Haitian American to speak Creole within an English sentence. So please bear with me as I do that. If there are no objections, then I will go ahead and continue with my presentation. I first want to share the two role models in my life. To the left of your screen, you'll see my grandmother. Her name was Eugenie Pierre. We called her Madame Pierre. Even though she was my grandmother, I called her Madame Pierre because she demanded respect at all times. And to the right of your screen, you'll notice a picture of my mother, Annette Pierre Roy, a very young picture of her, but nevertheless, this was my mother back in the day. And so this is what these two women had in common. They both immigrated to the United States from Haiti in the 1960s. They did the absolute best with whatever they had. My grandmother came here, she was already a widow, and my mother was a divorcee. And so they both had that side hustle or that hustle mentality. Madame Pierre, or Grandma, was a great cook, an excellent baker, and she made the best crémas and liqueur than any évangile or chrétien that I know on this planet. My mother, on the other hand, was a professional in her own right. She became a licensed practical nurse, or an LPN. She did Tigramoun on the side, which is elderly care. For those of you who do not speak Creole, that's how we call it, Tigramoun. And also, she was a wonderful seamstress. There was not a dress or an outfit that my mom would see with her own two eyes that she was not able to replicate, not only replicate, but make it better than the original. But here's the biggest thing that they both had in common. They owned nothing, no assets whatsoever, no properties, not even the roof over their head. No businesses, despite having that side hustle mentality. And so oftentimes, especially as immigrants or women or people of color, we have that hustle mentality in us all, but we don't move upon it for whatever reasons. So I am, like you all, a product of my environment. And so I grew up with that side hustle mentality. However, I never acted upon it very early on. I didn't learn that. I learned to work for others. I never envisioned owning anything of my own. But fortunately for me, I married somebody who did have that vision. And so in the beginning of the early 2000s, I should say, we created an organization called A&A Properties. And so what we did with A&A Properties was we would purchase real estate investment properties within the DC metropolitan area. And so the first property that I had, or the first two properties, I should say, were 2 4-unit buildings in Suitland, Maryland. I thought this was awesome. It was great. I acquired them at a very, very, very low price. Should have been the first dead ringer for me. It was very, very low. These properties became the properties from hell. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the show The Wire, which was on HBO, I believe. This was The Wire 2.0. The neighborhood was an open drug market. It was a blight community and crime infested. But this was where I chose to invest my money in. Why? Because I didn't do my homework. To the left of your screen, you're going to see a white man with a beard and a silver fox kind of looking guy. And for those of you who don't know who he is, that is the late and great Kenny Rogers, a well-known and Grammy award-winning country music artist. I will let you know right now, I am not a country music fan. However, I'm going to tell you how Kenny Rogers saved my day one day. Like I said, these properties were the properties from hell. And so one day, my husband and I were getting ready to travel to Florida. And we were heading to Florida. And then all of a sudden, I got a call on my cell phone from a tenant who was frantic. And she said, Miss Roy, they've taken everything out of the units. And so she was talking about one of the properties that I had. And I questioned myself. I was like, what could they have possibly taken? These were all vacant units for the most part. And so there was nothing, no furniture or anything in these units to take. So we make a quick U-turn back to Suitland, Maryland. And as we get there, I'm looking at the building. All the windows are shattered. As I walk into the units, everything has been taken, like she says. But when she said everything taken, she's talking about the appliances, the plumbing, even the carpet that we thought laid down was ripped and taken away. And so at that point, I could have gone into a state of panic, which I almost did. But then I just remembered Kenny Rogers' song. And the song goes, for those of you who don't know it, and I will not sing, but I will tell you what the lyrics say. It says, you gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. And so Serge and I just ran. We ran out of Suitland, Maryland, because at that point in time, we realized that there was absolutely nothing we could do. And in order to save ourselves from mental anguish, we decided to continue and move on. So when you have your side hustle, you're going to have challenges along the way. That's inevitable. But you have to learn from your mistakes and just simply move on. So the lessons learned here. Number one, do your research. I should have never invested into that area whatsoever, especially for my first investment property. And had I done my research and done my homework, I would have known that it was a blight community. The other thing is, don't quit your day job. Make sure before you do so that your side hustle is sound before considering leaving your 9-to-5. So I didn't quit my 9-to-5. However, my 9-to-5 quit me. And so I was working simultaneously at the time at Discovery Communications. I was a full-time producer there for about 6 years. I was living my best life. I was producing content to support Discovery, TLC, Animal Planet. I was traveling across the country representing the company. I was attending various award shows. I poured my heart and soul into someone else's dream. And then what did I get in return? A big layoff. Me, as well as 20% of the other people working at Discovery, were let go. And so you can only imagine how I must have felt. So a good friend of mine, I had a conversation with her recently, and she's getting ready to make that transition from her full-time gig to her side gig. And she's made this comment, and it just resonated with me. She said, a job is like a relationship. We've all had a romantic relationship. So when it is good, it is good. It's romantic. And so Discovery was my relationship. I love Discovery, and I thought Discovery loved me. I traveled with Discovery. I went to hotels, I wined and dined with Discovery. But when it was time to let me go, they let me go, and they didn't turn back. And no matter how many times I tried knocking on the door would not open for me. I'm going to pivot a little bit and talk to you about a woman named Lori. And so Lori was laid off just like me. Lori was in her mid to late 50s. And so as we were all getting the news that we were being let go, we decided to go out and, wallow in our self-pity at a local bar. And so we were all trying to console one another. And I turned to Lori and I said, Lori, everything's going to be okay. You're going to be all right. And she turned back to me and she said, what do I do now? Who is going to hire me? And so Lori in her mid 50s to late 50s was concerned because she had no side hustle. She had no side gig. And I just remember just saying to myself, I will not be like Lori. And so what I decided to do was turn my side gig or my side hustle into my full-time hustle. And that made me realize a few lessons. Number one, you can't solely rely on your full-time job. There is no such thing as job security. You have to create multiple streams of income. You have to prepare your side hustle. Even though you have a full-time job, always prepare your side hustle in the event it needs to become your full-time hustle. And so that's what I did for a span of 10 years. I turned my side hustle into my full-time hustle. And that brought me to the birth of another company called Affinity Group, LLC. And what Affinity Group was, or is, I should say, is a merger between two companies, A&A Properties, which I told you my husband and I put together, as well as another company that we merged with called El Fiancre Group. And so what Affinity Group was able to do for me is to help me and my corporation provide construction, property management, and real estate development services across the DC metropolitan area. And so in doing that, I was able to expand my real estate portfolio, create multiple streams of income, have the flexibility to return back to work when I was ready to go back to a 9-to-5 without the fear of losing job security. I was able to grow my family and be present there for them. And most importantly, I was able to create generational wealth. And so that was my affinity. So in closing, I'm going to ask you, what is your affinity? And affinity here is a metaphor. My company just happens to be called Affinity, but what is your affinity? What is your side gig or your side hustle that you're thinking of doing, or you've already started, but you're kind of in and out of, that you need to develop? Make sure whatever it is that you live out your dream and do not live the dream of someone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Danette. Thank you so much. I myself is trying to discover my affinity. I'm currently working for the federal government, and even though they say it's job security, I still want to have that side gig that I need to discover what it is. And specifically now with the pandemic, I think the world is recognizing we all need to find that affinity for the day that we may get the layoff, the firing, or anything due to economy, or just to have the multiple stream of incomes. And that's something that, I think we've been in fear of, specifically me, and I think others too. So it's good to have you guys here tonight to kind of encourage us and hear your path, how you got here, so that way we can be motivated, as well as we all have the goals of the new year and we could be inspired by you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will now have the next presenter. Next, we will have Fabiola, who's here with us tonight as well. And Fabiola Dimas has been an active member of the community for 15 years. And she's now excited to be turning that community focus toward financial literacy and real estate. With a passion for service in the DMV area, Fabiola Dimas is ready to help with all your real estate, selling, buying, and investment, as well as your life insurance and retirement planning needs. Fabi carries the value of hard work, integrity, and outstanding client service into everything she does. Fabiola, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As you see, I am not as, I'm nervous. I'm not as, I guess, prepared. I'm taking notes from Danette because as she was talking, I was jotting some stuff down. And note to self, work on a better bio because I do more than what's on my bio. So my name is Fabiola. I've been, I came here when I was 15 and lived like most Haitians in Miami. And I came to the DMV around when I was 19. So I am a real estate agent, also financial professional. So today I'll be talking about how to manage multiple streams of income and saying yes to opportunities, as well as leveraging social media. So how to manage multiple streams of income and saying yes to opportunities. The first step, I believe, is your attitude, as Danette covered. So with your attitude, you have to listen, you have to learn to listen to understand. That's the first step as far as your attitude, as well as don't ever try to be the smartest person in the room. I can tell you I am not the smartest person amongst my friends because I am always there trying to learn. I'm a sponge amongst my friends. And that actually helped me because some of my friends were smarter than me. I remember how I got my first LLC. It was a friend who went to, because it wasn't enough for him for me to do it online. He wanted me to actually go to the taxation office and fill out the paperwork and know the process. Yes, that building did not even take off. But now I have other businesses, and when it was time for me to create my LLC and DBAs, it was a breeze because I knew the process already. I can log on, create my, go into my account and do what I need to do. So your attitude is the first thing you need. And the second thing for me is to network. Because especially if it's your side gig, you're not spending like a regular job, you're not spending 40 hours a week doing it. So you need to build relationships because your business, whether you're selling something or you're doing deals, you never know when they're coming in. Word of mouth is your friend. So network. And also, because it is your side gig, it is something that is new to you. Chances are, through networking, you will get mentors and you create relationships, which leads me to the next thing for me, which is your focus. Make sure that make sure that you spend enough time. You spend at least a couple of hours per day, although we know that a lot of us, we still have our 9 to 5. But I was told by a mentor that with your side gig, especially if your goal is to make your side gig your main gig, is to treat your side gig as your 9 to 5 and treat your 9 to 5 as a side gig. I know it's tricky because sometimes sometimes you have to be careful because you can get fired and you still need your 9 to 5. But you will never hear me introduce myself as anything else other than a realtor and a financial professional. Yes, I still have my 9 to 5, but that is not the focus. Because at the end of the day, I want you to remember me as your realtor. At the end of the day, I want you to remember me as your financial professional. Again, back to the networking. When you are, be open-minded, because you never know where an opportunity is coming from, which leads me to another business I have coming up. I have a launching next month. It was in the weirdest way that I got that opportunity. Yes, sometimes things fail, but you'll never know until you take a chance. So be open-minded, network. I cannot say it enough. Network, network, network. And which also will lead to investing. Invest in your business. Because again, if you're treating your business like it's your 9 to 5, you need to, the same way you need to eat, you need to take care of yourself, your business needs to be fed too. So pour into your business, invest into your business, whatever that investment is, invest back into your business. Especially as a realtor, after every sale, there's a portion of my money that goes right back into my business. And educate yourself. I said earlier that to never be the smartest person in the room. But when it comes to your business, educating yourself is important. Again, you're not spending 8 hours per day doing your business. Most of us are not, as side gigs. But when you educate yourself, you're always on top of the industry, whatever that industry is. So for me, on Tuesdays, that's my training day. I'm on Tuesdays, I'm learning from my broker. I'm having meetings with some of the other agents that are more producing in my office because I want to hear what they're saying. I want to have conversation. I want to be in the room with other agents that are selling properties for $4 or $5 million because that's the goal. I want to get there too. Why not listen from them? So Tuesdays, I set that aside. That is my training day. That's when I'm a sponge on Tuesdays. Tuesdays, I'm going from meeting to meetings. My regular job almost gets nothing from me because Tuesday, I am pouring into my business. And so that's what I have as far as to how to manage multiple streams of income and saying yes to opportunities. With the saying yes to opportunities, I covered that briefly. And that was to, when you're in a room, to be open-minded and listen to what people are saying. That business that failed, yes, it failed, but because I knew the process, now I know how to move forward. I learned from the mistakes from that business. And I don't think there's no such thing as an opportunity that's too small. It may be small now. So for example, and some people have even mentioned it to me, is, well, you also Notary Public, why don't you talk about that? That idea came to me because I was open-minded. Someone asked me, I remember someone came to me and said, hey, can you notarize this for me? And I said, I'm not a Notary Public. And they asked, why? Why not? I thought about it and I was like, yes, why not? So I believe it was the next week. I was bored at work and I Googled how to become a notary public in Maryland. You wouldn't believe how easy the process was. And I think within 2 weeks, I was notary public. And I've been doing it. And that actually leads me to the next thing, to leverage. Especially when you have multiple streams, leverage one for the other. If I have a client who buys a home, I already know that that person is already in the mindset of financial security, creating legacy. So why not have conversation about life insurance with them? Or if that person is buying life insurance from me, but they're renting, sometimes people just don't have the proper education about these things, right? And so have the conversation with them. Have you thought about maybe buying a home? And sometimes they say, I don't make enough money, but there are programs out there. Or if I'm selling someone a home, because ultimately it's the relationship, right? So if I'm selling someone a home or I'm doing any type of business with them and out of nowhere they say they need a notary public because they know I'm a notary, I'm not charging them for a notary service. That's the leveraging part. Because I want them to see me as family. Some of my clients have walked away and we're friends after the transaction because people remember how you make them feel. They know they can depend on me. So, and that's what I have as far as the how to manage multiple streams of income and saying yes to opportunities, and how to leverage social media. That, especially as a side gig, is very important. And I actually heard some of what I'm about to say at a workshop. Again, remember networking last weekend. Social media is your #1 tool, period. Social media is your #1 tool because even a brick and mortar business needs social media. Yes, they can do without social media, but in order to be successful, they need social media. When any of us, when we're looking for anything, sometimes I'm looking for Haitian food and I Google Haitian food near me. Or if you're on Facebook, you go in a search and you type Haitian food or whatever it is that you're looking for. Social media is your friend. But not just only that, social media is free. Yes, sometimes, a lot of times we pay ads, but that's usually ads. You don't pay ads because you want your business out there. It's usually whether you're working on a project or you have, for example, if I just sold a home and I want people to see that, hey, I sold this home, I want you to basically hire me for it's to boost. Social media is to boost something you're doing, something you're working on. But other than that, social media is absolutely free. Learn social media. So let's say Instagram, for example. It costs me nothing to create a reel. I have about 800 followers on my Instagram, but I create a reel. I know right now that's the tool that Instagram is pushing. I know they're pushing it because they're competing with TikTok. So I'll create a reel, not because I like to do silly dances or to create any of that, but because I know Instagram is going to work for me. They're going to push it. And again, I have about 800 followers, but 2,000, 3,000 people sees my reel. That's an extra 1,000 or 2,000 people that I didn't have access to. that's going to see my work. And again, to go back to building relationships. So on social media, to go back to what I was saying as far as social media being free, if every time I post something relating to real estate, or I give people a glimpse at my life, right? Because you may, for example, a lot of times I post something about Fabiola in the city. That's not because I want people to know I'm in the city, but I want you to remember that I sell home in the city, that I was maybe in your neighborhood, that I know DC, or that I know your neighborhood. It's not because I'm trying to show my cute selfie. I want to be relatable, but I want you to remember, if I take a picture and I have the wharf in the back, I want you to know, hey, this is my territory. So social media is your friend. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabi. Yes, we have to use social media more. Sometimes in the Haitian community, it's seen differently, but that's the future. Technology is the future. It's the new marketing tool. And this is the year for yes. I will take that as well for myself. Thank you, Fabi. I hope you guys were inspired and got some of that as well. Life insurance is important. As we can see this year, how we're losing people with COVID, and you don't want to wait till last minute. It's very costly. Thank you so much. And our last speaker for this series is Franz de Renoncourt, publisher, entrepreneur. He was my realtor at once too. I'm also a member of AHP. Franz does a lot. I don't know what he doesn't do. Even while was taking me out to buy homes, the things he was doing on the way is just, he has his hands full. But just to let you know more about Franz, in 1998, Franz moved to Washington, D.C. to pursue a career in the real estate industry. In 2005, after several years of success as a licensed real estate professional, Franz started his first business venture with Beltway Property Management. In 2015, Franz became frustrated with the lack of information for children about Haiti's powerful history and self-published his first book, Haiti, the First Black Republic, which has gone on to sell over 30,000 copies. The success of Haiti motivated Franz to start his own publishing company, Torbret Books. And now, Franz, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you very much. And thank you, AHP. Thanks for having me here today. It's an honor. I always love doing things in the community. So anything that I can share, I'm always open to anyone who is willing to maybe take a few nuggets. And me and myself, I've learned so much already from Donette and Fabiola. They were great presentations. So hopefully I can follow in your footsteps this evening. All right, so I did put together a presentation.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm able to.
Yes, go ahead.
Share. Okay, perfect. All right, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet because I know we still want to do some Q&A afterwards. So I'm just going to take everyone through my journey, right? Like Stephanie said, I came to the Washington, D.C. area after college in 1998. But prior to that, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, right? So born and raised in Brooklyn, my family is from Haiti. So I'm a first generation Haitian American. Of course, you see my my good Catholic boy pose right there, like a good Haitian boy, right? Then we go to my years at Virginia State University in Petersburg, Virginia, HBCU, where I got my higher education. And then after that, I moved out here to the Maryland area, not really knowing, I know my bio says coming for a career in real estate, but I really didn't know what I was gonna do, to be honest. I was just kind of fresh and open to new opportunities. I wanted to come to a new city and meet new people and kind of figure out where I wanted to be. I know I didn't want to go back to New York. So Washington, DC was just close enough where I can, be close to home, but also maybe spread my wings out a little bit more in a different city. My family is very similar to Donette's family. As a matter of fact, my mom and my grandmother were both hustlers, right? My grandmother sold all types of Haitian food like douce and tablette and cremas and all types of stuff. And that's actually how she kept a roof over our heads for many, many years. So I feel like I get my hustler spirit from my grandmother and from my mom. So I got here to Maryland, and I was first kind of business minded, but being business minded didn't pay the rent early on. So first I had to get a job, right? So my first job was a security guard at Alamo Rental Car at DC National Airport. I don't think it was called DC National Airport back. It's Ronald Reagan now, but it's called DC National back then. And long story short, that didn't work out. I got fired for leaving my post early anyway, long story, right? So after that, I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. And I went to a temp agency. They had these places that would give you temporary work here and there for a couple of weeks at a time. And I was doing that for a few months, and that actually worked out pretty well. And then I think it was in the year 2000, like mid 2000, where I got a full-time job in a 9-to-5. It was at a mortgage company, and it was at the mortgage company where I realized I was just filing papers and stuff like that. They gave me like little busy work to do, and going through, being nosy, going through files and stuff. I was looking at settlement statements, HUD-1s, and I saw how much real estate agents made for commissions from selling properties. And I was like, oh, okay, I could deal with this. So that was when I looked into the real estate industry. I took the PSI exam, and after a couple of attempts, I finally passed it, and I became a licensed realtor later on in 2000. And I was selling real estate on the side while I had my 9-to-5. And what happened was, and I have these two pictures here because that first picture, I needed a picture for my business card. So that first picture there with the yellow tie, that was my very first picture that I put on my business card. It wasn't like one of those photo booth things. It was just like a photo like in a hotel room or something like that. I was like, okay, let's just use this. But I was just kind of young and naive, and just trying and motivated, and knowing that 9-to-5 wasn't me. Like just deep down inside, I knew just being at work and taking orders from people that I felt that I knew more than. I think everybody has that feeling sometimes, like they know more than their boss and stuff like that. I just had that feeling inside that this wasn't for me. This wasn't my path. So I started focusing, like Fabiola said, I was putting more effort into my business, my real estate business, than I was into my 9-to-5. And it started becoming successful for me. This other picture over here is a picture of me winning awards, for being the top agent in my office while I was in my 9-to-5, right? So it got to a point where I couldn't do both, right? I actually remember the day where I had to make the decision to leave work, because I was very famous for having 2-hour lunches, right? Because on my lunch break, I would go show properties and do things, and I'll get back to work late and get in trouble and stuff. But there was this one opportunity that I couldn't pass up, and I left work, and I didn't come back until the next day. And it was that day had a confrontation with my manager or whoever he was, and I quit right then and there, right? And the thing about it was a big leap of faith, because I wasn't sure, even though I was having success as a real estate agent, I still had that sense of security in my 9 to 5, right? Like I had benefits and, retirement plans and, this, that, and the other, which I didn't have. Like really my side gig, my 9 to 5 was like extra money, right? And I was enjoying that extra money as it was coming in, but now I had to make a decision. It's like, wow, am I going to really do this as my sole source of income? So it was a big leap of faith. I can't lie. I was very afraid. I was scared, but I knew that I had to do it. And I also knew that it was a false sense of security, that 9 to 5, because even prior to that 9 to 5, I had other jobs. And just like Donette, I was laid off. I've been laid off probably like 3 times already. And this was just another 9 to 5 that eventually probably the same thing was going to happen. So it was a false sense of security. It wasn't really security. So I just knew that I had to do something. I didn't want to keep down that path of getting a job, getting laid off, going to another job, getting laid off. If I wanted something to change, I had to do it. So it was in 2007, I quit the 9 to 5 and I became a full-time real estate agent, entrepreneur, right? So what happened then, that just started off, kicked off everything of me being a full-time entrepreneur. And I started many different businesses, which I still operate today, right? Like Stephanie said, I helped Stephanie with real estate things. I think I probably helped a few people on this workshop with some real estate stuff. But I also started, a publishing company, Thoroughbred Books, a lot of you may have heard of. Also started a catering company, Bon Manger, with Chef Maya Alice, with my mom. I started an entertainment company, Sauce Piqué Presents. Maybe you guys have came to one of our compa karaoke events or dating game, or, we've done all different types of events. So what happens is it's almost like getting, like once you start one business, you just want to keep on doing it, right? Because there's so many, really what entrepreneurship is finding a problem, like identifying a problem and looking for a solution, right? So with Thoroughbred Books, I identified that not enough people knew about Haitian history, and not just people like you and I, like young kids. And I was one of them. I went to school in New York, and all throughout my elementary school, high school, even college, I never heard about the Haitian Revolution, right? So I wanted to change that. And so I started a publishing company for Haitian Revolution books for children. I live in Prince George's County, and there's not very many Haitian food options out here in PG County, right? So I got with my mother and we started Bon Manger with Chef Maya Alice. I felt that we needed more things to do in the DMV area. So I got with my partner Nelly and we started Sauce Piqué Presents, and we started a bunch of different Haitian events in the Haitian community. And also FJD Enterprises. I know this logo for FJD Enterprises looks great. That was my very first logo. I had that done, like, I think that was probably like in 2003 when I started doing real estate. This girl did it for me. I paid her $75 for that logo. And I loved it at the time because it was mine, right? So I knew the importance of branding, branding your businesses. But just to go down this list of things, because when you operate this many businesses, like right now, this is 4 different businesses that I operate. And I actually left one off, Beltway Property Management, and that's only because I don't have a logo for Beltway. So, but I have my real estate business, my publishing business, my catering business, my entertainment business, and also the property management business. So when you have that many things going on at the same time, you have to really be organized, right? As organized as possible. I'm not the top organized person that I know, but in order to be somewhat successful in running multiple businesses, you have to have some type of aspect of organization in your daily routine. One thing that I do every day religiously, actually I do this at night before I go to sleep, is I do my to-do list. I cannot operate without my to-do list, right? Every night I go on my phone and I do 3 separate categories, or however many categories. I do my real estate category, my publishing category, and my catering category. Sauce Piqué is kind of dormant right now because of COVID. But and then I do my to-do list, everything that I need to do for each business, right? And I just, as many things as I could put on that list, probably knowing that I'm not going to accomplish everything on that list, but at least it's there. So that when I wake up early in the morning, first thing I do is look at my list and figure out what I have to do. And I just go systematically down my list, just checking things off. The best things about doing a list is checking things off when they're done, right? I get great satisfaction, great pleasure with checking things off of my to-do list, right? No matter how long they are, even if it's just 1 or 2 things out of a list of 10, if I could check something off, I know I accomplished something that day, right? So that's very important, and I can't even operate these businesses without doing that. Calendar. Now, when you're operating many businesses, a lot of things, it's very easy for different things to, it's very easy, I do it a lot, I double book myself, right? So it's very important to have a great relationship with your calendar, to keep yourself organized so you don't double book different events at the same time, right? Like even right now during this workshop, my phone is going crazy because I booked something for 8 o'clock, right? So, so it's very important to make sure that you're organized and you have things in your calendar, because it's very easy to go astray, right? You could get, I know all of us have done it, where we go down that rabbit hole, right? Especially with social media, or you go on your phone, you say, okay, I gotta do this real quick. Next thing you know, you're on Instagram, and you're on the Shade Room, or you're on Lunyon Suite, or you're Welcome to Haiti page, and you just keep scrolling. Next thing you know, 15, 20, 30 minutes pass, and you even forgot what you went to open your phone for. So it's very easy to get distracted. There's a lot of different distractions out there, right? So it's very hard to stay focused, but when you're juggling this many businesses, you have to stay focused, and these things, this list right here are the things that help me stay focused. Also, when you're juggling a lot of businesses, teamwork is essential. I can't do this all by myself. There's absolutely no way. I'm only one person, right? I have 5 businesses pretty much that I run on a daily basis. It's all about teamwork, right? Thoroughbred Books, I have my illustrators, my graphic designers, my editors, who I'm always online with, right? I come up with an idea, and the first thing I do, I shoot it out to either my boy Kervin Andre, or Chevelin, or Eminent System. And because, especially if I don't have time to write it down, I shoot them a quick text, hey, this is what I'm thinking for the next project. And then that way it's in the atmosphere to someone else, and now we're able to give it life, right? So, and also be able to bring that project to life together. Because if it was up to me, I thought about something, okay, great, that's a great idea, but now I'm off to business number 2, or business number 3, or business number 4, and I completely forgot about it. So it's always good to write things down, or even just send a quick text to your teammate, to your person that you're working that business with, so that you could give that idea life, right? Another thing is keeping these separate, right? Even though they're all of my businesses, they all have to be separate. Each one of my businesses have a separate EIN number, tax ID number, a separate bank account for each business. You should see my wallet. I have like 10 debit and credit cards in there for like, because I have so many different accounts with different banks. I mean, it's actually essential. You have to do it that way. You don't want to commingle all of these monies that's coming in one account, right? You have to, in order for your business to grow properly and to actually see how healthy your business is running, you have to be able to have a single account where monies are coming in and coming out for that specific business, right? If I had money coming in from Bon Manger into Thoroughbred Books, it'll be very confusing for me to like, oh wait, that money is not for there. I gotta send that over there, and it messes up your income and accounting, especially at the end of the year when it's tax time. So it's very important to file, get a tax ID number for each business, open up, go to the tax office, like, Fabiola, I believe, was saying, open up a business in that business's name, right? It's not that expensive. For $200, you could open up a business, because you have to do it that you have to register that business if you want to open up a bank account for that specific business, right? So it's very important to keep each one of those businesses separate with accounting and bank accounts and stuff. Delegation. Delegation is also something that a lot of us, well, I'm not gonna say us, but people like me, right? Who, if you are one who starts a business, you feel like you know everything that has to be done. And if you want it done right, I know you've heard this before, if you want it done right, you gotta do it yourself. But that's the easiest way to hold your business back, right? You have to be able to delegate responsibility, because you can't do everything, right? You have to be able to, for Bon Manger, I have to run and do grocery shopping, and I have to pick out, if it's not me that picks out the right malanga or the right, lemons or the right, parsley, and no one else knows how to do that. How's someone else gonna do that? Then I'm gonna busy myself with work that someone else can do instead of bringing in business for Bon Manger, right? So your time is a premium. So you can't allow yourself to be busy with work that you could easily delegate out, right? The type of melon, if someone brings a sour lemon instead of a nice fresh ripe lemon, then it's not going to be the end of the world, right? But while you delegated that work to someone else, you just brought in a huge catering order, right? So if you was out there picking lemons, then you want to be out working, bringing in business, so to speak. So delegation is one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs to do, but it's very important if you want to push your business forward. Promotion. I mean, Fabiola said it best with social media. Social media is very, very important when it comes to promoting. It's the easiest way to promote your businesses. I run ads all the time for, Thoroughbred Books and Bon Manger and my real estate business. So it's a way to get your business out there. If nobody knows you're in business, then you're not in business, right? So you have to be able to budget money for marketing and promotion so that as many people as possible know that you're in business. As far as creative thinking goes, in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a creative. Being an entrepreneur is pretty much being an artist, right? Because you have an idea and you're bringing it to life. So you have to allow, but the thing is, while you're working on your craft, it's hard to be creative at the same time. So for me, at least, I have to allow myself time off in order to get my creative juices flowing, if that makes sense, right? Because if I'm always busy doing this and doing that, then I don't really have time to sit back and be like, you know what, this would be a good idea if I do that, That's free time for yourself, right? Because if I wanted to keep myself busy 24/7, I could. I have 4 or 5 businesses that I'm running at the same time. But if I don't allow myself that time to unplug and let my mind wander off a little bit, then it would stunt my creative ideas for different things to do. And so you always have to allow yourself, you always have to unplug, at least 15 minutes. It doesn't even really take that long. A lot of us use meditating. You just unplug, get off of social. I know a lot of people social media fast, maybe for like even a day without Instagram, a day without Facebook. What that does is it gets your own creative thinking flowing so that you could be a better business person going forward. And also, as an entrepreneur, you have to have very good problem-solving skills. That's all entrepreneurship is, right? Because every business you're gonna have problems. I heard Donette's story. I've been in that position so many times with, properties in the hood, and you don't even want to go collect a rent at that property because you're scared. You think about your safety. So, but all it is, it's a problem-solving thing, right? As far as being an entrepreneur, figuring out what the problem is and then solving it. Because everything that you do, especially if it's your own thing, you're gonna come across obstacles, you're gonna have problems, you're gonna come across some type of issue, and your success is gonna be determined on how you approach that obstacle, how you approach that problem, how you approach that issue. In fact, 95% of your success is gonna be like that. There's no business that's gonna be easy, breezy, free flowing. You're not gonna come across any obstacle. So just anticipate that you're gonna be having issues going into any type of business, right? And that way, when a problem comes, at least you're expecting it to come. And then that way you'll be ready and more prepared to attack that problem. Branding is very important. You see, I have logos for all of my businesses. I like people I love it when people don't know my face, but know my business, right? Like, it's countless times, people, I go into people's houses sometimes and I see my book on their coffee table, right? Or people call me approach me all the time when they see my name. It's like, wait, are you the same Frans de Rennecourt that has, that book on Haiti? I'm like, yeah, that's me. He's like, oh, I love that book, my whole family, blah, blah, blah. So branding is important. You don't necessarily, me speaking for myself, I don't want to be the face of my business. I'd rather brand my business, right? And then so that if someone has a problem with me personally, that's fine. But guess what? They still bought the books, they still ordered the food, they still got the property management because my business is branded, right? It's not about Frans de Rennecourt, it's about Thoroughbred Books, it's about Beaumarchais, it's about Beltway Property Management, FJD Enterprises, Sauce Piquet. It's not about me, right? That's how I prefer to run my businesses. So if it's not me, at least, so if I'm not there or if I'm not the face of it, that's fine. They still understand what that brand is and they appreciate that brand with me, not even included in the equation. And also leave room for inspiration. I believe Fabiola said it best, where she said that she surrounds herself with people who are smarter than her. I agree with that 100%, right? All the pages that I follow on social media are pages of people are like caterers or publishers or authors who are selling millions of books or who is catering events at the White House and other large events, because that inspires me, because I want to do those types of things, right? So that's how I keep my inspiration. I try to keep my inspiration in front of me all the time, right? Because it gives me something to strive for. I don't hate on anyone's success. I want everyone to be super successful. When I see somebody that's doing something huge and that's doing something great, it just inspires me. That's it. I don't wish anything bad. I'm like, oh man, why they do it and I didn't do it? Or why they pick them and not me? I never do that. I just figure out how I could make my business better, how I could make my branding better, and how I could make everything better so that I could be in that same position that the other person was in. So I always keep inspiration around me as much as possible. And that just leads to better opportunities down the line. Very quick. Now, all those businesses are not $1 million businesses, right? Right. So if you have multiple businesses, you have one that's like the bread and butter, right? The bread and butter is like the one that brings in the most income, right, out of all the other ones, which is not a bad thing, right? Because the bread and butter business that you own can actually fuel the other ones and help them become more successful. So if I'm successful in real estate, then that's only good for Thoroughbred Books and for Beaumanger and for the other businesses, right? Because it makes me stronger as an individual. If one of my businesses are doing very well, then that only means the other ones are doing well. So in fact, many times I use success from one business to put it into the other ones.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. I told you to play the music, the wrap it up music.
No, there's so much to learn. We definitely appreciate everyone's time. We have, since we're sure some people have questions, we would like to get to the questions. We learned a lot tonight. And Franz, now toute sauce, basically, his hands is everywhere in every business. If he didn't post something here, he probably will be in the next business soon. So don't be afraid that if you have multiple business ideas that you can do multiple businesses, just like Franz does. And we will open the floor now to questions. Jill will take the questions for us, please. So we can
Yes.
wrap up. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Very, very rich presentation from the various panelists. Thank you, Franz, on the last one there. Thank you, Fabiola, on your segment as well, and Danette as well. All three of you were outstanding presenters. I mean, there's so much richness of knowledge, and it's good to see the passion in all of you when you talk. It's like you enjoy what you're doing, and you don't want to do anything else. So I'm gonna start with that question first, and I encourage everyone else, if you have any questions, so please write them in the chat, and then we'll be more than happy to direct them to keep some level of order there. But at the same time, if you want to raise your hand and ask your question, that's also allowable. So my first question to all the panelists, having shared all of the success of running your successful gig or side hustles, would you go back to your 9-to-5? That's the first question. And if not, why not? Anything you would do different. So I don't know which one of you want to take that question first, but that's the first question. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and go first. For me, I left my 9-to-5, or my 9-to-5 left me, to be quite frank. And for 10 years, I poured into my real estate company. However, I'm a natural creative, and I loved what I did initially, which was producing and the news and just being in the television media arena. And so 10 years after, I decided that my company was pretty much more so on autopilot mode. And so I could choose to go back to a quote unquote 9-to-5. However, I don't have that chokehold that I had before, where there was a fear of leaving that 9-to-5 in order, because that job is no longer in existence. So for me, I enjoy working a 9-to-5. I enjoy interacting with people that are like-minded writers. I have a small group of girlfriends of mine who I once worked with. They used to be my coworkers, and they're just very great friends. And, we get our creative juices flowing about certain stories or certain programs that we are thinking of doing. And that's just rejuvenating for me. So for me, being in both worlds is fine. Sometimes, like Franz and Fabiola had said, I think about my career and my hustle and side hustles as a bunch of pots on a stove. sometimes, like when you're cooking rice, right? We know fokutufujuya, right? You put it down on a lower fire than you would, if you're making your lumbi or something else for that matter. And so at times I'm just navigating both worlds, and I enjoy it and I love it. So I may choose to leave my 9 to 5 at some point, but it's going to be my choice. And that's really the beauty of having a side hustle. It becomes your choice, and that you're not connected or tied down to any particular job because that's the only thing that you have.
Thank you, Danette. Your independence is not something you want to negotiate, and it's priceless.
Absolutely.
Any one of our other panelists would like to take on that question?
Yes. So for me, I'm still in my 9 to 5, and I think Fun said it. There's a level of security because you're thinking, well, for me, I'm thinking, wow, leaving my 9 to 5, there's a steady check, so the bills get paid, and also the thought of having to go out there and get insurance on my own and have to actually pay out of pocket for it, all of that. But it's funny because I remember when I first started my business, I said, until I can save, not make, until I can save twice my income, I'm not leaving my 9 to 5. But recently, it's been until I can make twice my income, I'm not leaving my my 9 to 5. Now I'm in a position where that has happened, and so I'm like, yes, I want to leave my 9 to 5. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Fabi. I appreciate your candor. We appreciate your candor and honesty and your position. How about you, Flans? Any thought on that question?
The short answer is no. I would not go back to the 9 to 5.
Why
Only
not?
Because
Anything you would do different?
no, there's nothing I would do different. Only because I always felt like Fabiola, to be honest, like when the time is right, but the time is almost like never right. You know what I mean? It's like you almost have to just take that leap of faith and jump, because every time you put, like, maybe you think, all right, I'm gonna wait until this is like this, right? And I've been through it. I've done the same thing. I'm gonna wait until I have this much saved. I'm gonna wait until this business is, this amount of successful. But it's always like you change the goalposts, like once you reach this and then once you reach that, because it's frightening, right? To leave that security blanket. But when I left, what I realized was I wish I would have left it sooner, right? Because I wasted a lot of time and I lost out on a lot of different opportunities that was holding me back from. So it's a leap of faith, really, and you have to have a conversation with yourself. You have to a spiritual conversation. It's a spiritual thing where you have to feel that you're really ready, right? Because it's not easy, right? It's not easy because when you take that leap and you cut those ties with your security blanket, your 9 to 5, then you're on your own, and no one is coming to save you except for yourself. So it's very scary. But what happens is if you have that faith, right, and you work hard, then it's going to work out. All right, things often work out. Especially for people that work hard, they're smart, they have a plan, right? I mean, don't just jump out without a plan, right? You have to make sure you have your plan, and you have some type of savings, and you jump out there, and then what you're going to see is the doors are going to open up for you. So that's what happened to me. That's what happened to many other entrepreneurs. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, you can always get another 9 to 5. So it's always best to bet on yourself and take that leap of faith. That's my view on it.
Thank you so much, Franz. So we have a question from the audience. It's from Junior Philogène. And he goes, what's your best advice for someone who wants to start a business? So I don't know which one of the panelists wants to take that question.
I can take it.
Thank you, Franz.
No problem. For someone who wants to start a business, first thing is research, right? You have to do your research on the business, and you have to understand why you're choosing the business that you want to choose, right? There's different reasons. As far as me, it has to be something that, for me to leave, I'm sure you're not leaving something to start a business. You want to start something, but find out as much information you can first on that industry that you want to get involved in. I mean, go on YouTube, go to a library, get some books, find somebody who's already in that business and learn as much from them. Because the more you know, you don't want to jump into something head first because you saw something, it looks good, and then it's like, okay, let me try it. I would say spend like the first at least 6 months to a year researching and gathering as much information as possible before you start that business. Because what that's going to do is give you a head start, right? It's going to give you a head start. There's things you will be able to expect. You'll know how much money you need for this, know how much money you need for that. So that way you're more prepared. Like, you don't want to go climb Mount Everest without having the proper tools, right? So I would say just learn as much as you can, and then also start the business first before you go I would say start the business first if you can, before you start getting registered and this, that, and the other, just to see if you like it. It might look good from the outside, but then once you start doing it, you're like, actually, this is not exactly what I want to do. So you don't want to spend too much time and too much money doing that, starting it, and then 6 months down the line, you're like, you know what, this is not what I want to do. So I would say research, research, research.
Thank you, Franz. Any of the other panelists wish to also add to this answer, or?
I would also say that you should definitely volunteer as well. I think Franz was kind of touching upon that, because sometimes when you have an idea in your head and you think, oh, great, this is going to make me millions and millions of money. If you go and volunteer, devote some time to that particular industry that you're trying to get into, then you'll find out a lot about it. And so that definitely is essential. Networking is essential as well, making sure that you get yourself out there, get your name out there. And I look at networking a little bit different. My personality, I'm a social person, and people think, oh, wow, you're social, so you must love to network. I absolutely do not. I don't like feeling like I'm selling myself. But, when you're out there trying to network, trying to make those contacts and stuff, look at it as you're giving them information too. Like, if you find an article, and I know Fabiola is an awesome real estate agent, and I know Franz is an awesome real estate agent and author as well. If I find any little information, from time to time, send it to the people that you're trying to get in contact with, you're networking with, because that way they get to know you a little bit more and they see that you're serious as well. So definitely do that.
Thank you. So we have another question that just came through from
I just
Brent.
wanted to add real quick.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So similar to what Franz said, do your research, find your why, find your purpose, because you want to play offense and not defense. Because again, as a business owner, there will be issues, but you want to do your research enough about what you're doing, or at least know your why, so that when it does happen, it doesn't scare you. You already know either how to deal with it and or why you're dealing with it. Because if you have a purpose, if you have a why am I doing this thing? Then that will be your drive to keep you going. Thank you.
Well said, Fabi. Thank you. So the new question we just had that came through is from Brenda Douillon. How do you overcome imposter syndrome?
I'll take that one. And because earlier, Franz was talking when he was showing his businesses, and he mentioned there's one business that's not on there because he doesn't have the logo for it. It's funny because as business owner, when you have multiple businesses, sometimes you forget some of the business. And I forgot that I am a podcaster. And I have a podcast, and one of the episodes, I think it was my very first episode, was about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, the short answer is, it isn't real, yet it's real, but it only lives in your head. And for me, I wanted to I was frustrated with myself. I wanted to create this podcast for years. I mean, literally 4 years. And it never happened because I told myself, and that's the imposter syndrome, right? I told myself everything, gave myself every excuse under the sun, that my voice is annoying, that I don't have nothing to talk about. Nobody wants to listen to me. My accent, everything that you can think of. And I've even got a hold of some people and asked them to be my co-host. And some of them have said yes, but it was because they wanted to please me, not because they really wanted to do it. And it never went anywhere until I decided, you know what, enough, I'm done. It was really getting to me because it's this thing I've wanted to do for years. And I did it. And guess what? Yes, it's not picked up by iHeart yet. But you know what? I have downloads. Every time I download an episode, I get real life reviews from people saying, I listened to it. A lot of times I don't even have to advertise my podcast. People advertise for me. Oh my gosh, your last episode was amazing. And so imposter syndrome, get over it by, again, tell yourself why you're doing this thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabi. Anything else from Franz or from Danette regarding this question?
I would just say that everything in life that you want to achieve, all your dreams and goals are on the other side of fear, overcoming that fear, right? So if fear, and it's one of the biggest regrets, you don't want to have any regrets, even if you try and fail, at least you tried, So imposter syndrome, like Fabi says, it's not real, right? It's just, it's fear, right? Fear. I know there's a whole bunch of different acronyms that people made up for fear, like false evidence appearing real, stuff like that. That's exactly what it is. It's just fear. But what you will realize is once you overcome that fear, it doesn't mean you don't have to, that you become brave and have this courage and then you're just gonna do it you're gonna do it afraid, right? You're gonna do it scared because it's the unknown. But what you're gonna realize is that it's gonna be a great and liberating experience for you. And it's worth it to do it afraid, right? So I would just say, do it afraid and you'll live and you'll learn. But do it afraid is my best advice.
There's a saying that goes that the most dreams live in a cemetery. So think about that. The most dreams in this world live in cemeteries. That means that we die with our dreams and ambitions and our goals in life, because somewhere down the line, we got into our heads or somebody got to us. Think about when you're a child, right? And someone asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you say, oh, I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or this or that, and that. Then someone comes to you and says, oh, no, you can't do that. So one way of getting rid of imposter syndrome is, number one, you don't have to tell everyone what your goals and ambitions are until you are ready to tell them what your goals and ambitions are, because people sometimes don't necessarily even realize that they're being discouraging to you. I went into journalism, and I remember, I'll tell you a funny story. So, as Haitians, you become a doctor, you become a nurse or something of the sort, right? So when I was getting ready, I decided I wanted to get into journalism. That's where I wanted my career to go. And I told my grandmother, c'est un journaliste que me voulait venir. And so she said to me, oh, petit, journaliste même, ou moun tire. Because her reality is living in Haiti. If you're a journalist, when she was growing up, and even now, unfortunately, you can get killed for your points of views or to tell the news. And so I went on and became a journalist. But again, she was not trying to be mean or discouraging, because she was just looking out for me. So just be prepared and ready when you do decide that you have a vision and a dream and a goal and ambition. Who you tell. You don't have to tell everybody at the gestational period of what you want to do. That would be my advice.
Great advice. Great advice. Great advice. Thank you. We have a question. What is the biggest business mistake you've made, and how did you overcome it? From Brenda Douillon. Thank you, Brenda.
I think I shared mine already. So I'll let the other two panelists discuss. So that was mine for sure.
I don't know if France wants to go. Again, I'm still, compared to France and Danette, I'm still a baby business owner. So I think for me so far, and I hope it stays like that, it's bad record keeping. Make sure you keep good records, because not keeping good records could mean leaving money on the table. And that also goes for tax. So great record keeping for me.
Thank you, Fabi. That's a very golden advice, and also sharing that experience as something to avoid in the future to be successful. Anything from you, Franz? No?
Well, I've made plenty of mistakes. That's for sure. But mistakes, I think, are inevitable. But you just have to learn from them, right? Like, if you don't make mistakes, then how are you gonna learn? Just don't do it again, right? As far as my biggest mistake, Lord have mercy, sheesh. I can't think of one, right? But probably going into something blind, right? Like you get an idea and you say, oh, that's a good idea. And you jump right into it without doing any research, without doing the proper study of what you're getting yourself into. And then next thing you know, you put yourself out there and you have no idea what you're doing, right? So that was why, when I was giving advice earlier to someone about starting a business, it's make sure you do your research, right? Because someone like me, I'm very, one of my things, personality traits, I guess you could call it, is I'm very impulsive, right? And it works for me sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't, right? But as I've gotten older, I'm managing it better. But when I hear something that sounds like a great opportunity, or if I see something that, or if I come up with an idea that I feel like can work, usually I try to go head on at it. And I've done that many times in the past, and I've gotten myself, sometimes it's worked out great, but sometimes it's like, oh man, you know what? You get yourself in a position and you're like, man, you know, how did I get here? So definitely, as far as a big mistake, but overcoming it is not to take it too serious. It's not the end of the world, right? It's a learning experience. It's a learning opportunity. So I didn't do that again, right? Now I know it's like, okay, when I come up with something, I have to slow down a little bit, make sure it's well thought out, make sure it's written down on paper, make sure I see 1, 2, 3, 4 steps ahead, so I don't get myself in a compromising position. So taking things slow sometimes is the best way to go, right? And because it's not how fast you start, it's how long you last in business. So I see a lot of people come and go, grand opening, grand closing, right? But it's about how long you're going to be here, so that you could continue to impact the community and impact the world.
Thank you for sharing that methodical approach there, Franz. Thank you. We also have a question from Marie Telemac. She's interested in publishing a book with Thoroughbred Books. What is her first step, Franz?
Wow, that's the first time I got that question today. Well, the thing with Thoroughbred Books is I get a lot of people who have great book ideas. Thoroughbred Books operates in a niche, right? So if you have a book idea, first thing to do is to email me. And then, you know, like kind of like not your whole idea, but kind of like what the subject is. Because right now, Thoroughbred Books is kind of like working in one subject area. I'm an independent publisher, right? I'm not like, you know, Penguin Books yet, or, you know, a huge publisher where I have different arms and different wings of my business. So I would say I've published 2 books. Well, I've published 5 books to date and 2 for other authors. The other 2 authors were kind of like in my same Haitian Revolution time period. So it was a good fit. So if it's something that you have a great idea, that kind of like in that area, then absolutely, let's get together. I'm always open to great ideas. And I love publishing. It gives me a rush, you know, doing new things. So, you know, you see my contact information right there on the screen. Hit me up and let's see if you could do something.
Thank you for that answer. One question I have for Fabi, it goes back to her pitch about social media. Fabi, how do you ensure social media followers, likes can translate into hard sales? How many can you track over a week or month? If you could answer that question, thank you.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question is, how do you ensure social media followers, likes translate into hard sales? How many are you able to track the ability to convert those likes, those followers into actual sales on a weekly or monthly basis? Is that something that's doable using the context of social media, since you're very present there? Thank you.
Yes and no. Again, because my industry, like I've said in the beginning, my industry is mostly about creating friendship, because you may have someone who's following you and is someone who's following you who is engaging, but they don't buy or sell from you for maybe 6 months to a year. But by me having that relationship with them, so chances are when they are selling or buying, I want to be the first one that they think about. So one example I can give, because there's really no way of tracking it, but one example I can give, it goes back to the having networking and building relationship with others, even if it's people in your industry. I was last week in a room
You want
on,
the stove too?
I'm sorry. So last week, I was in a room on Clubhouse, and it's a room where we have conversations about proverbs every day. We go on there, we say Haitian proverbs, we know each other, we're familiar with one another. Doing the proverb, we doing the proverb conversation, we're sharing we share a proverb. Someone messaged me, they're not even in my market, and they wanted to, they're trying to buy a home. I was able to refer that business to someone, but guess what? By me referring that business, while we're all having fun as friends, I get 25% of that sale. So it's all about engaging and building friendship and getting to know one another, so that when you are thinking about buying or selling, you think about me and I can help you. And I hope I answered the question.
Thank you very much, Fabi. So it looks like we are 8:43 p.m. and the session is supposed to end at 8:30. So I don't know if anybody wants to stay a little bit longer, or if we're ready to wrap up. Everyone's done and exhausted. But just a quick reminder, before I get any response from anyone, the next session is next Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. It's a brown bag session, and it's about all you need to know about the Small Business Administration, the SBA. So we figured, as part of kicking off this entrepreneurship workshop series, having a session that highlights SBA for those who are interested in starting their own business or already having their own business. Maybe there are some resources from the SBA that they would like to tap into. Maybe they've exhausted their PPE loans and they want to know what other resources are out there. Who knows? So one just wanted to highlight that this is part of the next event that's coming up. But going back to all of you, any other questions anybody wants to bring up? Would like to turn around and ask to the panelists that we have organized for this session this evening. All right, I guess not. So with that said, wanted to thank you, Danette. Wanted to thank you, Franz. Wanted to thank you, Fabi, for all you've done this evening. This was a very enriching session. I don't know if you guys have any last words you want to add, any of you?
I just want to say thank you, AHP, for doing this very, very, very important workshop. And thank you for all of you, to all of you rather, who have joined in this evening. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, AHP. You guys rock. You guys have been doing great work in the community for so long. And I'm happy to see that you guys are continuing this even through this pandemic. So thank you for having me. Next time have some music for me to let me know when I'm going too long. And then, but everyone have a great evening, have a great week, and I wish you all the best.
Yes, so I think Sandra said she have a question.
Yeah, I see that. But finish your word first. Then we can take
sure. Yes, thank you for having me. And also, if you, because I know we have not everyone here are members. So please, if you are not a member, please join the AHP, check them out. And if you was a member, think about renewing your membership. But my last word would be to be a groundbreaker. And reason I said that, I don't know if you guys heard me mention Clubhouse a few minutes ago. And a lot of times I find as Haitians, as Black people, sometimes we're reluctant to try different things. And so when some of these things are happening, get on board, join them, especially a platform like Clubhouse, where you're sharing stage with Elon Musk and Grant Cardone, where you can ask them questions in real time and have conversations with them. There's a lot of people in your industry, whatever industry you're thinking about starting a business, where it can be very useful. And I said this because now that there's a lot of conversation about Meta, as a business owner or a future business owner, don't wait until it's happening. Start finding out now so you can learn as it's growing, as it's launching. Otherwise, you're always going to be playing catch up. Because if you think about your parents using Facebook now versus a lot of us who started from the beginning, we can maneuver Facebook with our eyes closed because we were there from the beginning. Whereas them, it's like they're robotic. So you want to get in front of some of these things. Yes, it's challenging, but guess what? You'll be learning with the creators. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Fabiola. Actually, the question is to you. Sandra Paul Blanc, do you want to read the question?
I was trying not to speak, but Fabiola, early on, you mentioned some special programs for maybe folks who don't think they have the income to purchase. You say you mentioned that there are some special programs, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm thinking about my daughters, who are a bit younger, and they do have professional jobs, but they don't have a lot of money saved, and they really are interested in purchasing a home. What's your advice for them?
My advice, perfect. And I know friends can back me up with, I hope friends can. So you said they're young professional. This is not their forever home. And right now, the interest rate is fairly low, although it is going up. But I would say for them, there are first-time home buyer programs. There are programs like maybe NACA. I know a lot of agents don't like working with NACA. I don't mind working with NACA. Again, we go back to the why. My why, backstory, I've dealt with homelessness. So to me, selling someone a home is not just selling them home. I'm selling them security. I'm selling them shelter. So to your young children, I would say, and that's what I've said to my younger clients, it's not your forever home. Buy the home, and maybe down the line when you are ready to transition, that can become your business because now you have an investment property that you can either put in rental, or we see what's happening in the market. Sometimes it can even double in equity.
Thank you, Fabiola. I do have your information, so I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for the question. And thank you, everyone, for attending this evening. Wanted to return the rest of your evening back to you and encourage you, when you get that email for the survey, answer, provide some advice, share some perspective with us about improving our programming. But wanted to say again, thank you to all the panelists, and thank you to all of you who were in attendance this evening. You guys have a lovely evening. Until next time. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Good one. Bye.
Bye-bye.